Synthstrom Audible, is it pronounced right way? And Ian Jorgensen showing us the Deluge.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I was going to talk more today, but I've been losing my voice for 3 days of yelling above speakers. So I'll play for 10, 15 minutes and then maybe a few questions at the end, which I'm sure will probably be about open source. But, let's talk soon. Yes, yeah, cool. So yes, Synthstrom Audible. We've been talking about going open source for about 3 to 4 years, but we knew that we would need to upgrade the screen on our device at some point. We finally listened, and we needed to get that happening before everyone just wrote code for the old screen. But yes, anyway, we've been talking to lots of coders in the community for the last year, and we know that there's a lot of talented people who are really keen to make some amazing stuff, and we already have 400 people following our GitHub in just the last 3 days since we announced, so it's going to be wild. Not Donald Trump wild, it's a different kind of wild. It's going to be good wild. Let's break the internet. But anyway, anyone got questions about it?
Awesome. Can you talk about is there a difference between the OLED and non-OLED in terms of the open source?
Yes, there are going to be 2 different sort of branches, though the plan is to work on making sure everything's ported between both.
Okay.
I should weigh something. I'm not the coding guy, so yeah.
No, it's just because you mentioned that it was something you were waiting for the.
That is
OLEDs.
It is crazy important to us that people with non-OLEDs, because I mean I still use the non-OLED. I'm trying to use the OLED one here because that's what people want to see. Yeah. But I prefer using the non-OLED myself, keeping it real.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, I'd be really disappointed if I couldn't use stuff on my non-OLED. How's he running around with Mike? Nice. Who was it? This is a good turnout. Sorry that I was really disappointing with my performance, but I've never played in a theater and I just couldn't. Oh really? Oh man, it just
sounded awesome.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. All I heard was just. So yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So I have a question. How will you manage that? Not everybody's gonna do the same thing differently, because open source means a lot of people are gonna, start working on stuff. So how you're planning to manage that?
Exactly. So I think when we first decided to do this, we didn't quite anticipate how many people were going to want to get involved. So we didn't think we were going to be that spoiled for choice. But just in the last couple of days of talking to people, it seems like I've had about 20 people email me and say, I'm going to work on export to stems, or 20 people work on this feature, and so we're going to have to implement a strategy, and that's kind of why we hired Jamie Fenton to look after this for us, so we didn't have to micromanage it. And that's also why we gave ourselves a month to see what the initial reaction was, to set in place some kind of safeguards and kind of strategies, to kind of go, okay, who's got strengths in these areas? Let's get a team of people who want to work on this feature. Let's work out that we don't have like 100 coders all working on the same thing at once. But yeah, it's going to be messy. I mean, it's going to be, it's going to be wild. But yeah, we'll hopefully tame it down pretty fast. Yes, fingers crossed. Yeah, I think a lot of people in the industry are kind of watching how this goes. So we're definitely taking it very seriously, and it's the commitment for X number of years is, we want to support this community code as much as we want to support the legit code, the whatever our code is going to be called.
So I'm a new Deluge user from January now. Played a gig last week with it, really nice. But I didn't dive into the community. But can you somehow maybe give a lookout on what is what may come up through what are people's ideas for new features?
I mean, obviously I stalk every single forum and every single page that people discuss the Deluge on everywhere, and I have alerts come to my phone constantly. The Discord, the Reddit, every single other electronic music manufacturer forum where they happen to have a Deluge thread. Obviously, I think the first thing that's going to happen is people porting existing open sourceware code, other existing open source code that's out there and just finding a way to like fit it into the Deluge architecture, trying to work out a UI of how to implement that within the Deluge, which I think is going to be the trickier thing. That's kind of what I think most of the fights around the open source are going to be, is actually how to pack 1,000 features that everyone wants to into a limited UI. So that's probably what most of the management's going to be around. But I think initially, and there's just a lot of things that Rowan has refused to do for a number of years, altering the initial synth engine, because that would require a user who isn't that experienced, who might download an update, and if suddenly, like, you know, the ADSR has changed and release times are longer, or, you know, suddenly the default setting for saturation is now 0 to 127 instead of 0 to 15, it's going to sound different and react differently to how they were used to it. And so we have to now that we have, though, there'll be the power users, obviously, who will be downloading the community code, and they will accept those changes. They'll be prepared to like go, okay, things are going to be different now. Or maybe I'll have to choose settings of like I'm using the old ADSR, or now I'm using the new ADSR. And then we'll see how that plays out as to what we incorporate into the classic code. I don't have a name for it, obviously. The legit code, the whatever. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that people will instantly change that'll be quite basic, that we've just held off changing because we didn't want to freak out obviously the big user base, because a lot of people are still on our first firmware. Like, there's people I meet who are on 1.3. They bought it 5 years ago and they're like, I did everything I needed. Why would I need anything more? All that crazy stuff. I don't need Euclidean sequencing. What? Just put some notes in a grid, press play. You know. I hope that answered the question. I just waffled on for a bit. Didn't you just ask me this like an hour ago? Why does everyone care about that thing? There's enough. Well, there's enough out there that there's a lot of people with them. I don't actually know. You can't get one? Why not? I'll bring it up on my phone right now. Just give me your credit card details. I won't save them on my phone, honest. Yeah, no, you can have one here in 4 days. If you order today, it'll be here on Thursday. Yeah, no problems.
I might have a question. How likely... Here?
Oh, yeah.
How likely is it to implement audio via USB? Is the machine powerful enough to do that?
I have no idea. I wouldn't have a clue of what the USB coding is capable of. I know that literally there's 1,000 people out there talking about that right now. So I know that there's also another team who are currently working already on a kind of overbridge type sort of companion app as well called Deluge. I'm gonna hate seeing that name for the next couple of years, Deluge Ian. It's like, couldn't you have thought of a different name? But yeah, I honestly don't know. I have no idea. I think in theory, potentially. It's not much of an answer. It's the least committable answer possible. Yeah, I'm not a coder.
Ian, when there are multiple versions of the firmware, do you envisage there being an easy way to switch between them? Because at the moment you only can have one on the SD card,
yeah,
right?
totally.
You know?
This is something we only just started talking about a few days ago. You know, that's definitely how the Deluge is designed, that it just wants one firmware file on there or it gets confused. Obviously, Rowan didn't envision this a long time ago, and when we thought that there might be like a community thread, then we started thinking, oh God, there's probably going to be like a MIDI fork, there's going to be like a sample fork, you know, a synth fork, everyone's going to go crazy, there's probably going to be 1,000 variations, so yeah. I'll definitely talk to him about that, yes. Or someone else could code that for us. Yeah. Yeah, that's come up already. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing the retrofitting. I had mine retrofitted just recently, and I was very happy with how it worked, and I think it was such a great service to offer. And I was
just quickly, thank you to those who haven't pestered me but are on the queue. Thank you very much for not emailing me every day and asking where am I on the queue. It's coming, it's coming.
And I was wondering if that is something that you would do again in the future, and if there might be more hardware updates, and if there was an aux send in return, I would love to have that.
Yeah, I mean, so we have talked about other things we might do. When we did this, there was another thing that might have possibly happened, and we did the two together. But it took Rowan a long time to work out how to fit that screen into an old Deluge and the process to actually have it happen. And then we had the other idea, which I won't say what it is, that was a real nightmare to try and put in an old device. And we didn't want to do it in a new device if we couldn't do it in an old device. So we'll definitely look at that at some stage, but we'll just wait till all these retrofits are done, and then, you know, I don't know. We're pretty happy with the hardware. Unfortunately, some of the limitations around it we just can't get around. Yeah, I'm going to have to talk in vagaries there. Sorry, you know. Yeah. No one expected me to give them a serious, straight answer on that anyway, right? So, yeah, we've just started the retrofit process. So. But yes, the plan is to be this device is sustainable. Like, we don't ever want to see anyone throw them out or at a landfill or whatever. It's not a cheap device. People spend a lot of money on import taxes and, you know, getting them here, and we want to support people as far into the future as we can. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Ian, thank you very much.
Thank you. Cool. I'll be floating around if anyone has any other questions. And you can ask me about things that aren't open source as well, like, you know, what's my favorite color and stuff. So, all good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming all the way from New Zealand.